podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Winter has arrived in South Africa, and so has the business end of the URC. Let's get stuck in. Good evening and welcome to Bit of an Animal, the premier rugby podcast here on YouTube, on the Global Gainlines YouTube channel. I'm joined by the full squad, Bryce, Sibusiso, and Jean, although we did just lose Bryce for a moment there. Good evening to all of you, gentlemen.
Evening, guys.
Evening,
Guys,
guys.
Oh yeah, and glad to have you back, Sibusiso. We had Tim Inkosi on Friday as well. I remember we go twice a week now, most weeks, Mondays and Fridays. Sibusiso, tough week for you, but you're still in line for a historic double at least, the Champions League and Spurs getting relegated. But that's neither here nor there. We'll start with Bryce and the Stormers game. Bryce, the Stormers fell short against a Connacht team, a good Connacht team, in windy Galway conditions in Cape Town. Disappointing result, especially look, we weren't freaking out when they lost to Toulon, but we thought like they've got a really good team. They can go on and maybe top the log in the URC, and now it's going to be somewhat difficult considering they have a home game and two away games. Three more round robin games to go, Bryce. You think you can still top the log?
No. Well, actually, wait. Maybe actually, because Glasgow does have a difficult run there, but I don't know. It's looking more and more like I don't even know how we were second on the log actually, because we've been playing so poorly for the last since that Munster game. I think we have been playing so poorly. I think with regards to this game. It started off great, like we had the whole, tribute to Chippy. We started off quite strong. We saw Skara, playing fly off there, So it was like, okay, we're gonna smash these guys today. And then after that try, I think there was a couple of entries where we decided to go back to the Galant, such a tactic of kicking in behind and then hoping that the opposition makes a mistake. Credit to Connacht, they didn't actually make a lot of mistakes actually in that game, and they held our scrum quite well. So I think that was two of our main sources of points was just stripped from us. So we had to work really hard. But yeah, it was. I mean, well, what can you say? Look, Dobbo, every week he says the keyboard warriors is out to get the team. You don't know what you're talking about. We're overreacting, but we haven't seen him prove us wrong. I mean, what do you say about Warri Galant? The keyboard warriors don't see 80% of what he does. So I'm guessing the 20% that he does is on the matches. I mean, what are we talking about here?
Yeah, it's an interesting factor because like I think we actually unpacked this and our preview show on Friday night was very thoughtful because we were saying like there's some serious issues here if the Stormers lose that because there's always space for good faith criticism and analysis. And no one's calling, like I said on the URC rewind, no one's calling for Dobson to be let go from his job, especially in this type of economy. I don't wish anybody to lose their job, be it in the public sphere or not. But like there's got to be some introspection going on because the reality is, Bryce, your team is best positioned in terms of the log of all the SA teams. Although I will say that the Bulls seem to me to be in the best form, and then the Lions. And it's almost like they're bottling it. Apologies, Sibusiso. It's almost like Stormers are sort of like in such a good position. Don't fumble it right now. So in the previous show, we were saying like drop Galant for his own. He's a good player, but he's obviously clearly lost confidence and out of form. And you have options in that. And if you continue to play Damon Willemse on the wing like Toulon do with Blair Kinghorn, and it doesn't come off, the the criticism from the fans is going to be valid
Mm.
to a large degree.
Mm.
Sibusiso, you caught most of this game. Give us your neutral thoughts, and then we'll go back to Bryce.
Mm.
I was actually on my way to the stadium. I
Mm.
didn't catch much,
Hmm.
but from what I saw, I think they started well, and I thought actually I thought they won until I saw the result later. So I think they lost it in the last quarter of the game when especially from their mistakes. Actually, Connacht actually capitalized from the Stormers' mistakes from what I saw, and well, it started well it started well for Stormers, but it was actually a tight game in the first half because I think it was 10-7 at halftime
Mm.
to to
Hmm.
to Stormers, but going on, they actually came back nicely, and I saw a bit of Sasha that is quite nice that I like, and but from time to time, I don't know, the elementary mistake really cost the Stormers. But they
Yeah,
can make it up and go on top of the lot this weekend because they play in Glasgow. All they need to do is to even a straight win without giving them a losing bonus point should be actually good to actually
yeah.
go on. So yeah, I really think they can actually try and rectify it. Hopefully, and yeah, we'll see how that goes this weekend. But I really hope that they can actually reignite themselves to that game, that monster game, the last real game they played. But
Mm.
yeah, hopefully they actually pick up from what they because they were the best South African side. I don't know what happened to them.
Mm.
So
Uh,
hopefully they'll be good.
yeah, hopefully they bounce back. Back to you, Bryce, and then to John.
Yeah, I think and then look, the Stormers are not a bad team. I mean, you look at that squad;
Mm,
it's a very very good squad. That team should be second or first on the on the log.
Hmm.
And
yeah.
with regards to this, I think I don't know what minute it was, like minute 70 or minute 68. The Stormers were ahead. We made this great break, and we on Connacht's 5 meter line. And then I don't know what goes through the players' heads, or they just decide to throw a wild pass that Connacht goes to intercept. They kick it downfield, and then Galan tries to turn it over. He gets it wrong. They get a penalty, and then they score again. Then the score's like what? I think it was even. No. It's 3 points behind. And then the
Mm,
Stormers decide, you know what? We just need to hold this ball and play the territory and just manage this ball out. No, we decide to let's entertain the crowd today. Today is the day we're going to, we're going to play basketball. And then one thing leads to another. Connacht intercepts, and now we're behind, and it turns a loss. Like that's just not that. Like I don't understand how you can, some of these players that play for the Springboks, they know how to close out games, and then they come to the Stormers. It's now it's time to let loose. I don't know what Stop was saying to these players, but they might start to bottle top four at this rate if they keep with this mindset.
John, your thoughts?
Look, I think I think we have to be honest here, and Dobson has certainly he's got 11 out of 15 URC matches for this season. He's got a URC title. He's earned he's earned some rope and some leeway. I think the frustration is, and there's always frustration, is you're losing games you should be winning. And you can't be mad about that. You can't then tell the crowd, "Oh, you shouldn't be upset about it." That you either have passionate fans or you don't have fans, right? So you can't have it both ways. So I think first of all, maybe just, check your engagement with the fans because you're not making allies right now, right? And number two, you are playing a world-class 15. Uh, I mean, this guy must be getting offers from French clubs yearly on the wing. This is Damian Willemse, and you put him on the wing to put Gelant at fullback. And we can go into personal criticism against Gelant. I think there's no shortage of that out there right now. I think the Stormers' attack is not clicking, but worse than that, their motto seems to be we're going to win by outscoring the opposition. And the only way you can do that is if you have the best attack hands down, which they don't have, right? And you can't win a tournament on attack only. You can't. The only thing that wins you tournaments is a good defense. And it's actually concerning that the Stormers seem to have lost the intensity in defense that they used to have. If we go back to that Bulls Stormers game, I think it was Johan Ackerman's third game in charge, much anticipated down in Cape Town, and everyone expected the Stormers just to run away with it. And that game was all defense for both sides. It was an all-out slugfest, and it was sort of when they won that game, the defense got switched off and they never picked it up again. Immediately after that, we saw the loss away to was it Harlequins in the Champions Cup, and that was sort of the stumbling point. It was sort of like we'd beaten the Bulls, and then the descent started. So I think there's honest questions being asked by fans need to be answered. And if your 15 is doing silly kicks that's giving the ball away, putting your team in a bad defensive position, then you need to drop your 15. Because if that happens at test level, you're behind the polls. It's 7 points. It's gone. You can't make those mistakes at test level. And when we're going to the knockouts, you best believe it's test level. Leinster wants a trophy. Munster wants a trophy. They're going to bleed for that trophy. You need to bleed to keep their hands off of it. So you can't have your 15 pulling grubber kicks that aren't on, chips over the top when he's not even chasing. Right? So if it's a set move, and I think this is the key thing that we get wrong about kicking down here in South Africa. If you want to kick on the fly, you need to communicate. Rugby is a 15-man game. The other 15 guys on the pitch need to know what you're doing. Your fullback cannot be on his own, kicking the ball, expecting everyone else to do the 99% work so he can have one moment that looks good on a highlight reel. It's not fair to the rest of the team. So take your world-class 15 and stick him at 15, and take Simelane off the bench and stick him at 14. And maybe actually you lead the whole game.
There's a few things going on. There's a few things going on at the Stormers. Their lineout has performed iffy-ish this season, good and then bad, or whatever. The defense hasn't sort of dropped as much because there was a point in the season where the Bulls were really having issues with defense under new coaching, and then they refreshed their coaching staff. That's something maybe Dobbo should have done in the season, refresh their coaching staff. But then again, they were winning, but people even like our colleague Hugh Griffin was indicating like, yes, they are winning, but there's certain things like that are concerning that might mean they'll start losing. And then it did actually happen. Their scrum has been consistent. They've got good scrummages. Nchunu was very inconsistent at the Sharks in terms of scrumming, and he's still somewhat inconsistent at the Stormers, but slightly better, that type of thing. In this game, the Stormers led by 10 points on two separate occasions in the second half, and they still didn't win the game. I felt in the preview show on Friday that as much as I'm a big fan of Skara Ntobeni, I don't know to what degree he hasn't played in a while. He could perform and that type of thing. And I was concerned about sentiment, like putting someone out there for sentiment's sake and then like exposing your team. They did lose the first scrum in the game, but then after that they were relatively solid. So it wasn't such a massive thing. Although when Andre Hofenter did come on, the scrum started killing Connacht. And in Connacht, unlike Ospreys we'll get to later, didn't pretend that they couldn't scrum anymore. So there's a lot to be worked on. Sasha, excellent world-class player, but at times he tries to, like the try that Sasha scored was a good try, but you can't rely on just individual stuff every time. It's not going to come off, right?
Look,
You need to attack more structured, like Leinster or other teams, and then Cobus Reinach, as much as we feel that he's like a really high, it's obviously a high level player, and it's somehow sort of peaking in his career at 37. He had a couple of mistakes where like fumbling the ball because the conditions were wet and stuff. So look, it's a team effort, but I was calling for Haaland to be dropped for its own sake a while
yeah.
ago, and then why Dobson didn't do that. So it's like. Ooh. The thing is that Stormers, despite them not being the best team necessarily in the tournament, they started really, really well. So they built themselves a platform to go on and succeed. And we know you're more likely to win the URC if you can get a home final, right? But now they're sort of like letting it slip away. Back to you, Jean.
Yeah, and there's two concerning things, right? So, and I think you is spot on with this, right? There's concerning things. Number one, the Stormers' discipline at ruck is very bad, and there's several. I think there's questions popping up around Ben Jason Dixon, who's been pinged at the ruck a couple of times, and you know there's it's like the loose forwards of the Stormers have lost their teeth, and now it's about thuggishness, not about clinical play. The Stormers used to be a team that thrived off turnover ball and turnover attack, much like the Lions are doing now, and that sort of
Oh,
died off. Um, so it's very concerning when you lose a platform like that, because it used to be a platform where that's a very demoralizing thing. If you get turned over and immediately stand off 7 points, that's very demoralizing. You have to go back behind the poles. You have to breathe, let it go. We need to focus now. You've got 14 points to catch up, and you're worried that we can't carry more than 4 phases because they'll turn us over again. But then we have to kick, and they've got a world-class fullback. So it's worrying that these I want to say basic or simplistic things have fallen by the wayside, and just the discipline in general. I mean, having 12 yellow cards, you're almost one card a game. You've got more yellow cards than you've got matches won. So that's very concerning. That's like, I know not all the teams are perfect, and the Bulls certainly have had a season where we've had a red and a suspension, and we've got our own discipline issues at times, but I feel like the ruck isn't a clinical target anymore. It's now a physical target, and that leads to discipline problems. And this isn't specific to Saturday's incident, which I feel is a collision incident. That was just an honest collision incident. But looking at 12 yellow cards, you've won 11 games, you've played 15. You should not be averaging. I think there was a statistic released. A yellow card on average means you're losing 3.5 to 4 points. That means it's close to 45 points or 47 points that you've lost this season to yellow cards. So yeah, there's definitely some areas of concern, and then the Stormers have a lot of goodwill. Like I said, Dobbo went on a winning streak there, built himself a lot of goodwill. They were the fire team, but that rope's starting to slip, and now's the time to get your grip sorted before you lose a home final.
yeah. They did get 13,000 people into the stadium, which is impressive for Saturday early kickoff and in that type of weather. It didn't look like 13,000 people. Weirdly, when I was at the Connacht game last year, it was about 13,000 people. It didn't look like a full, like an atmospheric stadium on TV, but like it's different when you actually go in. And speaking of clinical performances, Sibusiso's Lions put the screw into Glasgow. Sibusiso, you were there. What an afternoon for you.
Yeah, it was a very beautiful afternoon, and even the vibe at the stadium was awesome. And I mean, the Lions actually did almost everything right, except for the few hiccups. Um, I mean, those two tries we conceded was basically lapse of concentration in our defense, of which was solid the entire day. I mean, the guys did exceptionally well. I don't think we've conceded um, a penalty while we were defending, and we've managed to to turn over few balls, which actually led to tries. I think there was 3 tries that led to that were actually a result of a turnover. And overall, the guys were playing well. We did the basics well. Everything worked basically. Everything just clicked. And I mean, there's few guys that actually, for me, even though Henko was man of the match, I think Eric Cronje played a brilliant game. Siba Mahashi also played a brilliant game. So even Jacques Fourie on the touchline, he was happy with his defense because he's screaming all day how the guys need to defense, basically lining them up, how to actually approach. And so overall, I think we actually doing well, and hopefully we'll win our last game. Our last home game before go overseas. I know the guys don't travel well. So, and playing Leinster and Munster, I think it's not going to be easy overseas. So, hopefully, we'll get this last 5 points and maybe trying to consolidate our position on the log. And I think it's going to be our first playoff in the URC if we actually qualify. So, yeah. It's going to be an exciting because I think unfortunately I was offered the tickets for the stadium this weekend, but I already had prior plans. But I think it's going to be the vibe is going to be awesome because more guys actually want to come now. So yeah, we'll see. I was a bit disappointed with the stadium attendance for obvious reasons that we've stated here before because of the area. But the fact that the parking around the stadium is free at the Johannesburg Stadium is actually good. The Lions are actually trying really hard to actually make the area safe for everyone. But guys, hopefully they'll start coming more, especially with the team playing this well. It's gonna be nice. Hopefully we'll see more guys coming to the stadiums.
Yeah, you
But
got
yeah, the vibe
30,000
at the stadium was awesome, man.
30,300 people. It's a large stadium. As much as we on this podcast on multiple occasions have encouraged teams to take the game to smaller stadiums, there are other sort of permutations like the municipalities incentivize and almost sometimes threaten teams to use the facilities that they have. Otherwise, these large stadiums become white elephants. Obviously, we do have quite large stadiums in South Africa for different reasons. We've hosted Rugby World Cups, Football World Cups, and there's sort of
Yeah.
permutations in terms of that, of like us maybe similar to Brazil in some sense, like getting stuck with quite large stadiums without necessarily the events to cover all of them. I know basically Western Province and Stormers have to play a lot of their games, but not all their games at Cape Town Stadium because the municipality is like, please, like this covers not all the costs because like for a Currie Cup game, you might not get that
Yeah.
many people, but it covers some costs at least. So it like helps sort of the cost of maintaining these large stadiums. The times that Western Province have moved to the stadium in Stellenbosch have also clashed with maybe like a concert at Cape Town Stadium or another event and that type of thing.
Yeah.
Jean, your Gauteng brethren are doing really well. We're all really proud of them for making the playoffs, including those of us who like predicted they would. Your thoughts on the Lions' positive experience this season?
Yeah, look, I think putting a Glasgow team away with 42 points to spare, that's noteworthy. It's the same Glasgow that kicked us out of the Champions Cup not too long ago. So thanks for putting a smile on my face. Yeah, look, I think the Lions had a I don't want to say a bad start, but a bit of a wobbly start to the season. And they're peaking at pretty much the perfect time to peak. You want to go into the final rounds with good momentum, good wins, and then I mean currently they're sitting fourth on the log. That should be a home quarterfinal. As I understand it, the top four get home quarterfinals. Home quarterfinal for any team's going to be tough. Um, and then yeah, it's going to be if they do get a semi-final, then yeah, I'm not counting anyone out at this point. I think the top eight is as tight as it gets. Any match can change the permutations quite wildly. But I am very happy for the Lions after some very tough seasons. They've had a lot of criticism from ourselves, from myself, from a lot of people, fairly and unfairly, and they've struggled. Um, but I do believe, from what I understand, they've got new financial backing, and they seem to have expanded their coaching staff a bit. And the attacking coach, I believe, is Ricardo Loubser, and he deserves praise. The coaches have really turned things around. Um, so yeah, I'm very happy for the Lions. Not happy that they're fourth and we're eighth, but I'm happy for the Lions. And yeah, glad to see another team in the top four.
Yeah, weirdly, the Lions, I mean, there's such a long season. It's really a marathon. The Lions started this URC season on the 27th of April last year, 2025. They lost away to Cardiff, and they lost away to Zebra, which I really thought they might win that Zebra game, but they did have not necessarily their first team per se. There were some absentees there. Then they lost away to Benetton, also in Italy. Then they lost again away. Oh, no, sorry, my bad. They actually defeated Scarlets, and that's when their winning run started. They defeated Ulster at home. So defeated Scarlets in Joburg, then Ulster. And things that, well, surprisingly, their third win of the season was in round six of the URC against the Bulls in Pretoria, which was like a massive upset, good for them. And then they in the Challenge Cup, they lost to Benetton. So they sort of picked themselves up from there. They didn't really focus too much on the Challenge Cup. Well, I say that, but they did play necessarily their first team. Um, so yeah,
Again, sorry,
yeah.
we must also add that the only home loss we suffered was against the Bulls.
Yeah. That's also impressive. Yeah, the Lions, by the way, Lions won the SA Shield. They yeah, well, all the games when you play your fellow Shield people in your group, the other South African teams, what did they do? They defeated the Sharks twice. They split the results with the
The
Bulls,
Bulls,
and then
I think it was a split with
Stormers.
the
they split
Stormers
with the
as well.
Stormers
Stormers.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas the Sharks defeated the Stormers twice. They split with the Bulls, and then they lost twice to the Lions.
Mm.
So like Lions are looking good. Look, if you
Mm.
look at the log,
They fought.
they're fourth. This Connacht game is going to be a playoff, but we'll get to the previews, the early previews. We do the in-depth previews on Friday. Tune in for that. But then they got two tough games away. There's a chance they might slip out of top four, but I hope they do enough to stay in the playoffs. All right, so that's the Lions.
Wait, just
Bryce, yeah.
I was just looking at this log and I was looking at some of the previous games.
Hmm.
I think the Lions will really be kicking themselves at that Zebra and Ospreys games because
Mm,
had they won those games, they would have been second and
mm.
probably and could have been first by next week.
Yeah, and they were
So
in those games. I mean, they don't have a
yeah.
lot of Springboks. Asnate
Mm,
Klabakane wasn't there for that Zebra game.
mm,
Krappies wasn't there. Mone van der Berg wasn't there.
mm,
They didn't play Hashim in this game, and they still won. As for
mm,
some reason, they put wait. Well, Nico Steen's a good player in his own right.
mm.
Um, any
I
other sort
think
of like
Henko van Wyk was injured. Kriel was not available. Yeah.
oh back in those games,
Mm.
yeah. Inku came
I
back
think
from
we were
injury.
playing with Mills then. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
it.
Mills has been somewhat of a revelation. They made his debut last season and played really well. So yeah, we'll get to the previews later, but yeah, an impressive win. Yes, it was a rotated Glasgow team. Kyle Steyn was there with like 50 members of his family. Like, where does Kyle Steyn play when he tours South Africa? By his parents' house. Where else? So yeah, Glasgow captain Kyle Steyn. But like policeman Ben from the Your C Rewind podcast always reminds us, his mom is actually Scottish. So shame on you. We move now on to another impressive Gauteng result as the Bulls went to Gwent in Wales on Friday night and put an impressive, mature, what you want to see from South African teams overseas maybe not against the toughest opposition, but you still got to get the win. Dragons team, House Targaryen. Jean, you must be pleased with this performance, considering you had a rotated team. I mean, you didn't necessarily have your first team on paper, but like games not played on paper, and you got it done.
Yeah, I'm happy with the team. The first half was a bit of a push and shove affair. A lot of aggressive defense that I don't think the Dragons necessarily get the credit due that they deserve. They were up in our face the whole time, putting in big hits. They really messed a lot of things up for us, and sort of they challenged the Bulls' confidence for having a team stacked with Springboks. Um, you've got Andre Pollard at 10, Embros Papier who's in prime form, Marcel Coetzee, Marco van Staden, a lot of guys there. I think they really challenged the confidence of the Bulls in the first half. But the Bulls just sort of, I think we went in 7-12 at halftime into the sheds. And I think it was just a matter of, look, guys, we know we can do this. Let's slow down a breath. Let's slow down a beat. If we don't try and do it all at once, we're gonna win. If we keep trying to do everything all at once, we're gonna cost ourselves this game. And I think it was just good game management from there on out. You need to. A rugby game is two halves, and the first half you can see what's working, what's not, and then you've got 15 minutes in the sheds to say, right, these are the plans we're abandoning. This is new stuff we're going to try. If it works, we keep going. Um, but I think the Dragons do deserve credit for that first half. They really defended all out, and there were times when we would push into their 22, they'd turn us over, they'd push us back into our 22, we'd turn them over. It was a real push and shove affair first half. Dragons deserve the credit, and the Bulls deserve the credit for coming out in the second half and saying, right, now we're going to run 30 points at you, and you best keep up. So yeah, it's very happy with the performance. Happy that the squad got rotated. Guys like Jandre Rudolph, and a couple of other guys deserve some time off. They've been working hard this season. So yeah, happy that we got some rotation in. But yeah, very happy for the win. I'm hoping we can pick up another one and just maybe move into the seventh spot because that eighth seat is a bit hot, and I hear you don't sit long there.
Yeah, it's a lot of teams getting stuck in for that playoffs position. Bryce, we haven't heard from you in a while. Thoughts
Yeah.
on the Bulls' professional performance?
Yeah, it was just good. I mean, I don't know. It was almost like that Bulls versus Lions game back at Ellis Park. It was just Bulls going back to basics and then just grinding them out. I mean, I don't know if there's much to say. I mean, they just knew they were better and then they executed.
What's
But
also
it was,
interesting is that their front row, both their front rows are immense. Like
yeah.
like the Stormers front row that started wasn't that powerful. Then Andre Hofente came on
Mm,
and they started messing the Connacht up. But the Bulls front row is like I don't know
mm,
what it is, if it's the front row, if it's the pack or whatever they're doing there. They were just putting
mm,
Dragons under the pressure from the start, and that's a great platform. Look, we've said this multiple times though. South African teams, if we're going to win stuff, we need to do more than just scrum. But
mm,
scrumming, if you do all the other stuff and you can't scrum, it's a big problem as well. So you need to
mm,
do a complete performance. Scrumming, line out, defense, structured attack, and just general play. And if you get kicks off the tee, uh,
mm.
tough kicks and difficult kicks, you need to kick to a high degree. So yeah, you were saying, Bryce?
Yeah, and I think it was a growth from the early matches this season where the Bulls tried to do too much in their lost games.
Mm.
And I think the Bulls are starting to learn, okay, you don't need to do a lot to win games. Because I mean, look at that squad. I mean, let's be honest, that's an all-star squad in any other on any other season. So I think it's
Yeah,
good, and I think if
and
they
there was no fall
could,
off in terms of performance
yeah,
because even the wing and the wing on
mm,
the bench, David's the fullback,
mm,
and then Peterson
mm,
was on the bench and stuff, and then David Kriel moved to wing. I mean, one could argue that Krill should have started at fullback, but like Ackerman knows better. And I tend to do that. I tend to defer to the coaches because they're like on the field. But if they continually make the same mistakes and we're getting the same results, that's when we start to good faith question like what's the thinking behind consistently doing the same thing and getting negative results.
And if I think how many do they only have what's the toughest game next of the three? Because I think it's only Scarlets, Benetton, and then I don't know who else they might play.
Scarlets, Benetton, and Zebra.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
so
I'd
they
say
should,
I'd say next week's game is actually the toughest. Yeah.
If they win that Scarlets game, I think they might finish fifth this season because they just getting better and better this season.
Yeah, and Scarlets have nothing to play for. They legitimately can't get top 8. They're definitely in Challenge Cup next season. And they've got massive upheaval in terms of coaching staff. So Scarlets might like how focused are these guys going to be? They're going to maybe throw the ball around. How engaged are these Scarlets players going to be? So the Bulls could take advantage of that. So there are no easy games in the URC. It's very EPL, random stuff does happen, but the Bulls are, like the Stormers were like favorites against Connacht. The Bulls are favourite in these games. They just need to put in the professional performances. But Sibusisa, you want to come in here?
Yeah, no, I guess the guys have actually summed it well. It was an excellent display of game management. And like Bryce said, it's similar to what they did at Ellis Park, and they did all the basics right. They managed their performance, plus they managed the opponent's performance, and they knew what to do and how to execute everything. So yeah. So it was a very clinical performance by the Bulls, especially in the second half. So yeah, I really think they will qualify for the playoffs, and like you guys just mentioned, now the next 3 games are not really hectic games, so the Bulls should be favorites. So yeah.
It looked like they've done the hard work, but that having said, they do need to execute these next 3 weeks. Well, this week, and then there's a break because none of the South African teams are in the EPCR, and then another 2 games. And another 2 games are just Italian teams who also have nothing to play for. Speaking of nothing to play for, we move on to the Sharks, who have a slim mathematical chance of making the playoffs, unlikely, alongside Ospreys. Ospreys, who defeated them this week. Saturday night, the last game of the URC season, last game of the URC round. So going into this game, I thought that the Sharks had a reasonable chance winning, especially with a really grizzled, effective front row on the bench of Oxenchair, Vincent Koch, and then Eddie Swart. And I was right to an extent that once that front row came on, we would start to like scrum them off the ball and maybe use that as a platform to win. But the Ospreys had other ideas, and they were just going to pretend that they couldn't scrum anymore. So the Ospreys chose strategically to rather not scrum and go down to 14 men. The referee team got very confused about how many players Ospreys are allowed to have when they go down to uncontested scrums. They were debating back and forth for like 8 minutes, or should the Ospreys go down to 13 or 14, which was very annoying. Yes, in rugby they stop the clock, unlike football, but at the same time it breaks the momentum of the game, especially the players. And speaking of the players, just like with the coaches and the players, when it comes to referees on this podcast and on the Global Gain Lines Network and the RAP YouTube channel, we do good faith arguments and critiques of the referee. And with respect to this, and I'm often like not reluctant, but my critique of referees is measured because I do happen to know a few professional referees and amateur referees within the South African system. But this referee in particular, toward the end, I didn't have any issues throughout the first half. And then towards the end of the first half, when Ethan Hooker got the intercept, ran away from the whole Ospreys team and scored the try, their winger Morgan timing was really poor in terms of he's not going to tackle, right? And he landed on top of Ethan Hooker. Ethan Hooker was immediately in distress, didn't seem happy about it at all. His shoulder is now out for an indefinite amount of time. Legitimately, one of our best players can play high level rugby on the wing and inside and outside center. And that obviously affected the Sharks going into the second half as well, because the guy we have on the bench, Makazola Mampimpi, somebody I have a lot of admiration for, but is not nearly in as much form as Ethan Hooker. Makazola Mampimpi also up and down season this year. So like we critique Warwick Halland's form this year. Mapimpi, the best game Mapimpi had was his 100th game for the Sharks, where he was like having a blinder. Then Dan Kasende, former Cheetahs player, he high tackled. He was completely upright, and Leroux Malan got smacked in the face. He had to go off and didn't come back on. Leroux Malan is now leaving the Sharks to go play for Cardiff next season. Namibian/South African player, born in Namibia, grew up in South Africa. Played really well for us. I didn't really know much about him. Played really well for us since he got there, and now he's leaving almost immediately. But in this game, Dan Kasende should have at least gotten a yellow. Somebody on the social platforms actually told me later on Dan Kasende made a similar tackle where he was very upright. And then I went back and watched the game, and they were correct. So that then should have then been a yellow. The first one maybe a penalty, and the second one a yellow. Yes, we like Dan Kasende. He played for the Cheetahs. There was a lot of Cheetahs players in this game. Botha and the outside center, Evander. Boshoff. Ivandi Boshoff. Yeah, look, we weren't street smart. The Sharks lose like this a lot. They've lost over the course of the 4 seasons. This is the 5th season of URC now. Over the course of the 4 seasons of the URC prior to this, Italian teams, especially Benetton, will come to the Durban and play with their heads as well as their bodies. They'll use gamesmanship in such a way, in the rules, just in the right way to get because they know they underdogs against the Sharks team most of the time anyway, if we have like Springboks. But then the Ospreys did it to us in Wales, and we weren't smart enough to adapt. So look, this is a wasted season. We have a slim chance of getting to top 8. It's very, very unlikely. And if we do get into top 8, I hope we get to play the Stormers in Cape Town, because that'll be a more winnable game for us, because it'll be in South Africa. But even then, we're going to be underdogs, and we are missing the Sharks ownership chose a model of like a Galicio, Real Madrid type team, and it's a double-edged sword. And now we are experiencing the negative effects of it, because guys like Bonking Manambi and Grant Williams and Eben Etzebeth and Siakulisi are all really high-level players, but them and many other players, they've not been available for long periods of the season. And when they are available, besides Grant Williams, we're not really getting high level performances out of them. So this is why we're at the stage we are. But on the positive side, I will end in a positive manner. We did give a debut to a 19-year-old, an 18-year-old, and a 20-year-old this year, and all of them look like real talents. And that we haven't even yet given the debut to Vusi Moyo, who looks an incredible talent in itself. So that doesn't mean that next season the Sharks are going to win the URC or the Challenge Cup, but it does mean that if we start shifting our structures in a way to get long-term success, like the Bulls have. The Bulls got a lot of like really good front row forwards from youth level and maturely built them up. Some of them have done well, some of them haven't, but that's just the numbers game. But right now they've got like a bevy, like I said on the URC Rewind, they literally have, you can have 3 people in the front row. So in my respect, I think they've actually got 3, 6, and then another 2. I think they've actually got like 8 really good front row forwards. They're missing maybe a third guy to make it 3 full-on kill you in the scrum front row forwards. So that's what the Sharks are going to have to do. Our next game is also against Edinburgh, also another team that has nothing to play for. So we'll just see how that sort of pans out long term. We shift now to the preview of the next round. So let me get that up for a moment. First game, Sharks take on Edinburgh Friday night. 2 teams, nothing to play for. I hope the Sharks win. We'll tune in on Friday when we have the full match 23, and I'll get a bit more insight. Glasgow versus Stormers. Bryce, early thoughts?
I genuinely don't know, because with the Stormers team, home advantage is something that doesn't exist anymore. So yeah, I think this is gonna be even game, like just like the Connacht game, swing either way, and then probably gonna be won by like 4 points, 5 points. In reality, this should be won by like 15 points. Like with the Lions, you should punish a Glasgow team that's a bit stretched on depth, but we saw the Stormers team struggle against the Dragons, so anything is possible. So
If
Right.
Galant's not at 15, Stormers odds go down by like 20.
Then they go,
Hmm.
you said not at 50. So,
Yeah, if he's not, the odds go down. Like
oh yeah,
the
the odds
odds
are,
get
yeah.
better.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So
Yeah,
so
they'll
yeah,
get
if he's not
better.
at 15, the odds get
Mm.
better.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Don't really check the sports betting stuff. Um, Next game is Lions versus Connacht, CBC. So early thoughts. That's Saturday at 4 o'clock in Johannesburg.
Yeah, no, I think I'm anticipating at least a 10,000 crowd, a
Mm,
10,000 strong crowd at Ellis Park on Saturday. And if we keep the same momentum from the last game, I think Connacht is gonna struggle. We should be fine. I think it's another 5 points, hopefully, and yeah, we'll see. We'll see on Thursday when we get the lineups.
mm.
Who actually, but I think Cash might start the same 15 if there's no knocks and bruises.
Would
We'll
you like
see.
to see Hashim Peed in the team, or do you think just
I'd
stick with the
love
same?
to see Hashim Peed in the team, but remember when Krapis was injured and Nico Steyn was playing, he
Mm,
was actually playing excellently with Hashim coming off the bench. So it only made sense for Hashim to be dropped when Krapis came back. So yeah, so hopefully he actually comes into the team because he's actually talented. I'm actually worried about where he's at mentally, whether he's because I saw him warm up with the team, but then from there he went in and changed with the rest of the guys. But
mm.
yeah, I just worry about where he's at mentally, whether he sees some of his peers, under 20 peers, starting for other unions and he doesn't start in his union. So yeah, so that's where I'm hopeful that he might start.
Yeah,
He might
we should
start
we
this.
should have we should have a conversation broadly about that though, Sibusiso, because if you're a school superstar and then you're a SA school superstar and then you're a baby box superstar, maybe you win the Junior World Cup, maybe you win the under 20 rugby championship, that type of thing, and then you go back to your union. You're probably in one of the four URC unions, and you don't get game time immediately. That's
Yeah.
maybe why this under 23 tournament exists, because I think the South African structures and the South African national coaches and the people overseeing the structures are seeing people, young players, get a little antsy. Because you see, look, some players do get chances earlier than others. Sipa
Yeah.
Mahashe effectively sort of disappeared after Baby Box, playing for the Baby Box, and prior to that playing for SA schools. So like, we want people to have ambition, and I can understand that young people can get anxiety of like, hey, I was like better than that guy at school level, and now he's getting regular game time, and I'm not, and that type of thing.
Yeah.
But is is being sort of fast track the best thing for everybody? It also depends on the position you play, that type of thing. Like I like the fact that the Sharks are bringing through these young guys, but we're kind of forced to because of injuries. But at the same time, I would have been okay with them sort of like nurturing them a little more and playing them a little more in the under 23 tournament, which is relatively new. So yeah, your thoughts on that,
Mm.
because
I
we're
think,
seeing different things. We're seeing Hashim Peet go directly into the team, and then we're seeing
yeah.
Sipa Mahashe maybe. Everybody's career is different. Play.
No, I believe most of the youngsters actually benefit from injury, like you just stated with the shots.
Mhm,
So sometimes fast tracking, I think it depends on not every player from high school to varsity to is actually an elite player, like your
mhm,
Sashas, your Franz Steins,
mm.
who's the coach, your coach. He actually played
Mm.
senior rugby
JP.
at a very young age,
Mm.
JP.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So not all players can actually be fast tracked unless there's an injury opportunity. Like now with Hashim Peet, Hrapis was injured, so he saw a lot of game time. Now that Hrapis is back and whatnot, so he relegated to the bench, but he's too good to be actually be part of the under 23 setup as well. So it becomes a bit of a tricky situation. Even though I think was it last year, he went and played I think the under 21 final, which
Mhm.
we lost. So he played the under 21, so he was relegated to that, even though he did get a cap in the
Mhm.
senior team. So not every player needs to be fast tracked, and not every elite young player is gonna get an opportunity like the guys I mentioned, your front stain, your JPs, your yeah. So yeah, it's a tricky situation because you must remember this guy is still developing. He hasn't actually hit um, um, peak yet. So
Mm.
with CI, so there was like you posted his numbers, but if you look at the play overall, I think he some of the basics at that
Mm.
level he struggled with. He couldn't protect the ball at contact. I think he lost a couple of balls. So
Is there was
it's
a
nice
point in
experience.
yeah,
It's
there was a
nice
point in
experience to play for him at that level, but there's
mm.
certain elements of his game that still needs to be nurtured for him to be actually excellent at that level. So yeah,
Yeah, there was a point in the second half where Uh, Ospreys were down to 14 men and Sharks are at 15. Sharks never got a yellow card in this game. And
yeah,
all to score, all CIA had to do was like catch the ball and throw it to his right. It was a very, they were on the Ospreys line. But the ball came at him at such a speed. It's playing away. It's in front of it's a night game. It's in front of a partisan crowd, that type of thing. And he dropped it. But I don't feel bad when a youth player does that. When an 18-year-old does that, like we're only playing him. Yes, he's super talented, but in like I think
yes,
in a perfect world, I would have played him when he was 20, as opposed to like now when there's like a massive injury crisis in the back line for the Sharks, especially at
yeah,
fullback. Because I'm a bit annoyed that like we didn't keep Henry Immelman because we had Henry Immelman on loan from the Bulls, and he's sort of an older player and that type of thing. And yes, he might not be elite, but he's still like good. It's like a good sort of middle ground from rushing guys like Loan Gillemere. Gillemere had a fantastic debut, but he played at home. He played in a very senior team, and he played against a Munster team who at the time were like just like headless chickens who are now sorting themselves out. But like at the beginning of that tour out of the Six Nations, they weren't really structured. So I would say to young players, and I know it's difficult because obviously they have ambition, you get anxiety of like falling behind your peers and stuff like that. But like I would actually say to the unions, you got to like really sit down a lot with these young guys and give them counseling and stuff so that they don't get ahead of themselves. Because yes, not everybody's Frans Steyn in terms of like skill, but also in terms of physicality. Because Frans Steyn was always like what we say in Afrikaans is fris. He's like he was a big dude. And then people are like, is that an 18-year-old? Obviously, Frans Steyn's physiology, because we're all different, almost came back to haunt him because at a certain stage it was like he was just expanding and even his in more recent interviews now that he's Cheetah's coach and part of different structures of the Cheetahs admits that like yeah I had issues earlier in my career about my diet and my like sports nutrition and stuff like that, and that affected my game. I could have played even better. Okay
But
guys, yeah,
I
Jean.
think a perspective we need to keep here. If you're going to sign a guy like Hashim Peed, Batu Glekani, I mean any of the star players, you need to when you're signing that guy, you need to have a plan. I would say if I'm looking like putting myself in the shoes of the Lions coaches, I need to say, right, I'm signing this guy. He has just at under 23s, he just won the under 23 Rugby World Cup. He is probably one of the hottest under 23 scrum halves. I'm getting to sign him. My plan needs to be one, I need to get him ready for seasonal rugby because it's different to what he's been doing. It's now year-round rugby, right? So first of all, I need to get his body built up to that I can give him a season. We'll sit down and say, look, let me give you first season you might get 5 games, right? You're gonna get
yeah,
5 games. We'll start you for 3, or we'll start you for 2, 3. You come off the bench, so you get a taste of the intensity. It's not because we don't think you can't handle it. We want to
yeah,
ease you in. We're not going to chuck you in a boiling pot and expect you to survive. You need to feel the physicality. Um,
sure,
and then second season, you're going to be a bit more regular. because if Morne van der Berg moves up in the Springbok pecking order, right? If there's a crucial injury, which we hope doesn't happen, but if there's a crucial
Yeah,
injury, the whole pecking order moves up. Now Morne van der Berg is gone. The Lions lose
yeah,
their starting scrum half, right? Which means their pecking order moves up. So now Hashim Peed, you're thinking, right, well, I was only going to play him 5 games this season. Now he needs to do 4 games continuously. Maybe he's going to start two, maybe two off the bench. And you're sort of like, please, I can't afford another injury, right? So it's I would say it's very you need to bear in mind that it's difficult. And yes, a part of me wants to say that the Lions have always been good at signing talent and bad at retaining them. And I think you're outlining a situation, but it's the same across the board. And when you've got other clubs and clubs across the pond willing to sign our 10s, our 9s, our 11s, our 12s, our 15s for euros and pounds, you can't begrudge them that. It's you go to a club in France for 3 years, you've put enough away to coast out or to have set yourself up this side pretty comfortably. But there is an element, and I'm speaking here from the perspective of having had a friend in high school who went to the Lions. He arrived at the Lions camp for under 20s, weighing 105, and they told him he better come back from December weighing 112, otherwise they can't utilize him. He's too light, and that was for number 4 lock. So
Uh,
so understand
he
the
was.
the 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 pressure to perform, to have the right weight, to be injury proof gets very, very real. Because otherwise you are just it's a liability. I mean, you're paying this guy's insurance, he gets injured, can't play again. Insurance has to pay out, your premium goes up. It becomes a whole mess. So I think there's a plan behind it.
mm.
We just don't see it, and I think we can expect
Uh,
if an
so,
under 23 gets signed now, expect him in 2 seasons to be a regular.
Yeah,
He just needs that build up. And
yeah,
and it
yeah,
will because these guys
we're
are good.
we're seeing a similar thing with the Stormers supporters online and in person, telling me like, get rid of Angara, get rid of what's the name, Devil Devenacher and stuff like that. When the coaches are saying we actually have a plan for Imad Khan, we have a plan for Assad Morse,
Mm.
and we've sat these kids down and we say this is how it's going to go, and then they can't necessarily throw that plan away at the expense of this young guy's career just to save the team.
yeah,
They've got to like make other plans and stuff like that. I mean, how's that young player going to feel if they say, look, you're going to play a set amount of games and we're going to build you up physically and tactically and mature because we have a lot of players in football and rugby who lose their way off the field. So we need to do that as well. Clubs in football and rugby need to put the structures in place so they have the mentors and ship for that. And then they like all of a sudden, like you say, tell the guy like, look, the 2 people ahead of you in the depth chart just got injured. Do you know that plan we said that we're going to physically prepare you for this level? Screw it. We're just going to let you get injured, that type of thing. I always feel like they should have done that with. I feel like the Cheetahs should have told Heineke Meyer all those years ago, like, look, I know Goosen is really talented and Elton Jantjies was there as well at the time or whatever.
yeah,
Elton was a little more bulky, but I felt like the Cheetahs should have like sat Heineke Meyer down and said, look, like he's really good, but we're going to expose him too soon if we play him at test level right now. He's only just played a bit of
yeah.
Currie Cup, a little Super 12, Super 14, Super Rugby. Like you're really going to play him right up there. So I feel like they failed him in that respect. You want to say something, Sibizu?
No, no.
Okay.
I actually agree with you.
Mm,
So, like I stated earlier, so these elite kids, not all of them needs to be pushed into senior level
mm.
immediately. So, yeah.
It's unfortunate what happened with the Sharks in terms of Bataklakane, but maybe from his perspective. I mean, I've spoken to people who have spoken to him, and they said like the Sharks layout of plan was you are going to play, but maybe not as much as he wanted to play. So when he shopped himself around to other perspective, I mean it's his right to do so. And from a perspective of just depth charts and not knowing him, you can see that maybe they might have said, look, you're going to play, but because Vincent Tutuka's here, he's like the primary blindside flanker. And then sometimes Vincent helps out at lock. but you will be maybe because he's a very similar, not maybe similar height, but he's maybe in that mold of like a blindside mauler / forelock, that type of thing. So Klokari could have said, look, I have a bit more ambition than that, and here's an opportunity at the Lions, and they have a little different plan for me, and I'll play maybe a bit more and maybe fast track in something. So he had that right to do so. Bryce, we've spoken a lot. Your thoughts on youth rugby? Who did you go to school with that went to that played professional?
Nobody.
What
But
about what about Damian Jansen? That guy can do anything.
yeah. Now, in terms of the youth, I actually agree with all of you guys. I think each one has their own path. I mean, we saw it with the Springboks. I mean, was like a guy like Jasper Visser. He was brought in 2021. He was good, but he wasn't great, and he kind of here and there. But slowly, Rassie brought him in and out for Dwayne or whoever was at 8. And then by the end, he was like this undroppable 8. And same with a guy like Mani or even Kubazana, who had to sit on the sidelines carrying water bottles and balls for the team, and then only eventually got his chance, and now he's undroppable. So I think for if you're a youth player, you should always like be like a car ready to go, ready to go. But just know, like when you get your chance, then you gotta smash it out the park. Like how Jesse Kriel after Lukanya arm got injured, he just took that jersey and said, no, I'm not giving it back. And that's like if you are Sheen Pete or Nico Steyn, you just have to be patient and be like, okay, Mourne is gonna mess up one day, he's gonna lose form. And when he does lose form and I start to shine, then no one's gonna drop me. So it's everyone has their own time, and that it is what it is.
Okay, so the final game we quick early preview. Tune in for the Friday show when we do the in-depth preview. It's Scarlets versus Bulls in Wales, 8:45. Early thoughts, John?
Early thoughts, I would love for us to get a bonus point win. Like really, we need a good bonus point win. Bonus point will probably put us at maybe move us to 6. Maybe I mean top 3 is split by yeah, if we can get 2 points over Scarlets, we can maybe move to 47. So that's about 5th place, 6th place. Points difference not being that much in our favor right now.
Lions are going to do you a favor by beating Connacht. So it's okay.
Ah, I love my guy Sibusisu's Lions, and I want as many SA teams in the final 8. But for Connacht, there's a phenomenon where if you get the opportunity to score, you focus harder. Connacht sitting right on that line, so they could be calling Scarlets to hurt Andre Pollard there in a ruck. They could be calling Susie to offer her some British pounds to poison the Lions Friday night. But yeah, I think it's going to be a very interesting weekend, and I mean this is what makes it great is the worrying and the stressing. Where do we end up in the table? I think for the Bulls, realistically, being in the 8 is as good as it's going to get. So just securing that 8 spot so you can get to the playoffs. We've turned things around in terms of touring. We've gone into some pretty tough places and we've secured victories away from home. So I'm not worried about getting a home quarterfinal, but I do want us to be in that playoffs. So yeah, hoping the Lions and the Bulls can have a good weekend. I'm hoping Stormers can very very optimistically put Glasgow to bed, even if it's by 1 point, just so Bryce can smile again.
Yeah. Yeah. That's all we want. We just want Bryce to smile. And on that note, that's the end of the show. The other podcasters are already sending me messages saying they need the Zoom room. Gentlemen, thank you for your time. As we say every week, in Rassie, we trust.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers, guys.